all right? Now, people ask me, Tom, why don't people purchase my product when they should? Well, there's 10 reasons that you should know, because there are 10 basic fears that the average human being has to invest money for benefits of a product. Now, you want to know these fears because you really want to work on them so that your presentation makes sure that you eliminate these 10 fears. Now, the very first fear I'm addressing to you that are in sales, and everybody knows it. They know what you do for a living. The first fear is they are afraid of you. Why? They're afraid to be sold. See, we are great consumers. We love to own things. But people today are afraid of being sold. So the key is to not come across like a salesperson, but try to come across more like an expert advisor. You see, when you come across like an expert advisor, they stop looking at you as someone trying to sell them. And that's, of course, when everything works. The feelings are right. They don't know exactly what they should do, but they feel good about you. See, if you were to boil down the whole key to this business to one sentence, let's just say hypothetically, you were in the elevator at the hotel, and I was in the elevator, and you says, Tom, I'm studying your training, I've read your books, blah, 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 blah. We got 10 floors till we get to the top. What is the real secret? And I would say I can boil everything I teach down to one basic truth. If you make something happen with people, you're going to do well in this business. What is it? You have the ability to have them like you, trust you, and want to listen to you. You see, if people like you, then they trust you, and they want to listen to you, not have to. They now open up and say, I need more information. That is when you really are going to do well in this business. Now, the second fear that people have, they're afraid of making a mistake. And you know, all of us are. Many people have purchased something they wish they'd never purchased. They were told something and it didn't work, the warranty wasn't good, and so they have this fear that, hey, I'm not making a mistake. That's why in any presentation, you must watch as we watch the presentation to make sure that any of those fears about making a mistake are covered in the presentation. Now, your third fear, they're afraid of being lied to. See, many times they've been told a lie in the past. Anyone over 30 years of age has purchased something where it didn't do what they said it was going to do, and they felt they were lied to. That is why it's so important that you are extremely honest and truthful. See, I believe that you can have a great presentation, you can tell anybody anything based on what you're saying if you come from a foundation of truth. And that's really, really important to have a long-term integrity and ethics with your clients. Now, the fourth reason people are afraid to buy is they're afraid of incurring debt. All of us are. So many people have too much debt today. And they look at your product, they may have to increase the monthly investment, and right away they're going, I don't think I can afford it. I'm afraid of that. So again, it's so imperative that in your presentation that you make sure they realize the value that they get. Because see, that's what the exchange is in selling anything. It starts with perceived value as to the benefits they're going to get. Then it goes from perceived value to real feelings of value. And that's why one of the great keys to selling anything is learning how to pour on value. Because if there's enough value, it diminishes the investment they're going to make. Fifth reason, this one takes a little explaining. How many of you that are in sales market your product primarily to two people, a husband and wife at the same time? Let me see your hands. Okay, quite a few of you. You've got to be careful here, because this next reason has to do with one of the couple at the table. Meaning, let's say that you're a real good friend of the husband, and he's made some mistakes. You're close enough to tell him, let's say you're in financial services, And looking at what they've done with their investment portfolio, they made tremendous mistakes. Well, now here's the situation. All of a sudden, you are real blunt with John. John, what were you thinking? This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Well, all of a sudden, John feels his ego is threatened, and the next fear takes place. And that's the fear of losing face. To where he loses face in front of his wife because you talk down to him. That's why it's very important. Here's another concept. Make everybody at the table feel important. Never talk down to anybody. Never belittle anyone. It's amazing if you make everybody feel important, which is, again is uplifting them, how they'll want to do business with you not only once, but for a lifetime. And that's when you really have done your job, when they want to be a lifetime client. My last year in sales, 96% of the people I met and got involved in our opportunities were referred to me by other happy people. And that only happens when you do a great job for them. When they know, wow, this person cares more about me than making a sale. And that's something you want to work on, that feeling. Now, there's a word for that. You've heard it during the program, and it's called the word empathy. See, empathy to me is the most important thing people have to feel you have for them. You have empathy for them. Empathy is putting yourself in their shoes. In fact, I have a poem. I love poetry. It's another thing I write. I love it. I have a poem that I think will really illustrate to you what this empathy thing's all about. Let me share it with you. When you walk down the road of life and come to that bridge, knowing how many of you right now are just a little worried about me forgetting my poem? Anybody? How many of you had this feeling like, whoa, come on, Tom, don't forget the poem? See, if you had that feeling, that's empathy, where you put yourself up here with me, with all that's going on here, and me forgetting the poem. You that felt that, I salute you. You've got empathy. For the others of you that said, oh, finally he blew it, that's great, I'm worried about you. Let's look at our next fear. They're afraid to say yes to your offering because they're afraid of the unknown. They've never heard of the product. They don't know what it's all about. This is why, for I would say 90% of you that are in sales, your whole process must be an education process where you are educating them as to the benefits they'll derive from owning your product. Yes, you are doing a sales presentation, but that's one reason why, and I'll share this with you, oftentimes we test students after they graduate from our training, and we follow them in their careers. And the people that seem to do the best in sales come from either the nursing background or flight attendants. Now, I know that sounds hard to believe, but we've followed these people, and the reason is, I feel, is a nurse is a teacher. A flight attendant has to put up with some people that sometimes are very nasty. They'd have to learn how to handle the people in pain. And that's really what you do in the sales process. You're having people who might feel a pain that you can solve with your product or service, and you've got to educate them and lead them in to feelings of ownership. Your next fear is because of a bad past experience. See, they had a bad past experience. They said yes to something, and gosh, I wish they had never seen it. And right away, you sound like that last person. And they go, we had that happen once before. Now, you'll also find another truth. You that work with people over 50, as they look into their golden years, they are reluctant to take risks like they did when they were younger. So you really have to make them secure with your presentation to where they feel, boy, this is really going to be good for me. And that's why, again, they'll have bad past experience memories if you don't handle them properly in your presentation. Now, number 8 is important. Their fears can be based on prejudice, meaning someone prejudiced them. I had this happen in my career. It was the only time it ever happened once in all the years I was in business and sales. I had a couple who was definitely qualified, but after 2 years of working with them, I could never close a transaction, and the reason was they had been prejudiced. Now, prejudiced by number 9. Their fears were based on a third party. Their parents said they shouldn't do it, their grandparents said they shouldn't do it, and so they'd been prejudiced by a third party, and because of that, that fear of making the mistake, the fear of all the things we've talked about, overwhelmed them, and they could not go ahead.